book, I described four big shifts that I think are all happening now and are all related to each other. The first is that we're seeing an exponential increase in the amount of information that's accessible to us. So in the past, I'm old enough to remember a time where there were 24 encyclopedias in my house, and if I looked at all of them and read all of them, I assumed I would know everything about the world, whether that was the case or not. But now we're seeing, because of the web, things like Wikipedia, where people are creating and adding unique and new content faster than we can read it. And so the amount of information in our world is going up, but our attention and our memory and the capacity of our brain is remaining the same. So that's a huge challenge. Information is going up and our brain is remaining the same. It's a big challenge for marketers in particular. The second shift is that we're seeing the web completely changing its structure. The web was originally built to link documents together, and now it's been rebuilt, very fundamentally being rebuilt around people. So people are now in the center, and the connections and the relationships people have, and the content kind of orients around the people. So what that means basically is, as you traverse the web, in the next few years, as you go from site to site, you'll see people's profile, their connections, their relationships, all moving with them, and that will inform how they experience the site, and things will be a lot more personalized and curated for people. So that's the second. The third shift is we've seen with all of the social interaction and relationships that have been built, by like Facebook and Twitter and MySpace before that, we're now at a point, probably for the first time in humanity, where we can actually measure influence. We can measure how people are influenced, how they make decisions, and there's been a lot of theories in the past around how people influence each other, and for the first time we can actually measure it. I say something, where does it travel? Like, I said it to you, do you pass it on? We can start to map all that. And that's interesting because it's changing this understanding, this measurement, and this understanding of how people talk is changing how we think about marketing. Because it turns out a lot of our intuitions weren't right. And that's related to the fourth big shift, which is in the last 10 years, we've learned more about how our brain works than in all of the time before that. And so what the basic thing we've learned is that our emotional brain, our non-conscious brain, is far more important than we previously thought. A lot of our decisions are driven by emotion, not by reason. So we're not as rational as we once thought we were. And again, that changes how we make decisions. We decide to do a lot of things, go a lot of places, and buy a lot of things based on our emotion and our non-conscious brain, not our conscious brain. So these four shifts really change how we should think about marketing and business at a broader level, away from a world where we broadcast information. Like if we're all broadcasting, there's too much information. Our brains can't process it all. So to a world where we're marketing to people's friends, and they're small, close groups of friends, and that's how we'll start to see people adopt our products, pass on our messages, and so on when it's told through their friends. If we think back to that second pattern, that second shift, the web has been rebuilt around people. So any business is going to need to understand this. They're going to need to understand how and why it's been rebuilt around people, and all of the complex social interactions between people. How people are related to each other, how they're connected, how they influence each other. And these are quite complex topics. So the book is aimed at almost anyone in business, particularly marketers, people who need to communicate things about their product or service. I think it's very important for designers to understand this, business strategists, but at a broad level, I think anyone in business. I think in many cases, these people who are in these roles, like the marketers and designers, I hope will buy it for their boss and put it on their desk, the CEO, the CMO, because they're the guys who really need to understand it as well. So what they'll get from it, they'll get a base understanding of a very complex topic. So when we look at influence and we look at social interaction, it's incredibly complicated. We all have unique relationships with every single other person that we know. And so they'll get a base understanding of the patterns, the main patterns that drive people's behavior and drive the decisions that they make and the social interactions that they have. They'll get a lot of principles. I try to make the book as actionable as possible. There's a lot of theory, and a lot of the research in this space is trapped in kind of a lot of academic papers, which people don't have the time to read and synthesize. So hopefully they'll get like some clear patterns to design and build and create things around. And then the final thing that they'll get is, I've tried to add a lot of examples, examples from where I work, examples from other places of work, things that people have tried and things that are working and things that are not working. So at the end of each section in each chapter, so there's about 4 sections in each chapter, and at the end of each of those sections is a quick tips section. And that quick tips basically gives examples, applied examples of things people have done to that map back to that earlier content. So I think that at a very practical level, I try to make the book as actionable as possible for people. So I hope that people will be able to take the design principles that are in the book, the basic patterns of social interaction, and build them into their marketing plans, into their conceptual design work, into their business strategies. But I think at a much higher level, the much more important thing is that I hope it changes the way they think about the social web. So in the past, what you've seen a lot of is people coming to the social web and thinking, we need a social strategy. And what they do is just add on the buttons. The tweet button, the Facebook like button, the send button, add on all the buttons, and then that's their social strategy done. And I hope that changes, and that they start to realize that this is a much more fundamental change, and they need to think about it much more holistically. And so they need to build business strategies around people, and not just try and hack social onto the side. And the reason for that is because if you think about offline behavior, we don't hack social interaction on the side, right? It's part of who we are, and that's how businesses will need to think about it as well.